ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. This is the Rise Crypto Show, and I'm your host, Chris Rise Crypto. Now, first off, I want to apologize about my voice. As some of you might know, I went to Las Vegas last week for World CryptoCon, the Litecoin Summit, and Vegas Blockchain Week. And needless to say, I got sick while I was out there, came back, lost my voice, and I'm just starting to get it back. But speaking of Vegas, some of you might be aware of the situation that occurred with my bro Ken Bozak and Jorg Molt, where Ken Bozak was calling him out as a scammer. So in today's episode, I actually interviewed Jorg Molt. I interviewed him yesterday, and I prepared notes for this intro because this is actually a very important thing, and I want to make sure I don't mess up any of the words. I'm not the best at doing improv, and this is really important. So shout out to Ken Bozak, my bro, for being so passionate and caring for our crypto community. He is known for calling out scammers, as am I. Look into Bitcointopia. I appreciate Bozak and people who want to keep this space clean. This crypto community needs to stay clean and transparent. With that being said, as a journalist and a content creator, I have to have journalistic integrity. And with this interview, I had to be as impartial and fair as possible. I do not endorse Jorg Molt. I'm not trying to give a possible scammer a platform. I want truth, and truth speaks for itself. I will add, things do not look good for Jorg. There's a trail of lies and deceit, and if you do your research, you'll get what I'm talking about. And if you've done your research, you know what I'm talking about. So I encourage everyone to watch this interview in its entirety. I researched this guy for around a month. I did my homework. I met him in Philadelphia. He actually agreed to do the interview before the incident with Ken. He even agreed to still do the interview knowing that Ken and I are bros. So I wanted to ask him face to face. And ultimately, this interview speaks for itself. I kept this as fair as possible so that you, the viewer, could make your own educated decision based off the information provided. Because I always encourage people to do your own research. Don't trust, verify. The last thing I'll add before we get into the interview is towards the end, Jorg wanted to blame the language barrier as part of the misunderstandings. What I will say is Americans are not ones to mess with. Whatever worked for him in Germany and other European countries will not work here. The crypto community is aware of Jorg. And America will not condone scammers. So be warned. So again, watch this interview in its entirety. If you have factual information about anything that we've spoken about, please comment down below. I'll have my contact information because I've done a lot of research and I can't find any factual information to back up either side. So definitely watch this thing to the very end. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, today we are joined by a special guest, and his name is Jorg Molt. Jorg, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on to the Rise Crypto Show. How you doing today, man?
Hi, welcome, and thank you for this invitation under this very strange circumstances.
Yeah, well, okay, so to give a little bit of a backstory, and I want to apologize about my voice because I got sick in Vegas.
It's okay.
But me and you, Jorg, we met in Philadelphia at the Bitcoin Bins meetup. And
Right.
We've actually been talking for about 5 weeks about me interviewing you. So this kind of isn't
Right.
a surprise. But also, I'm friends with Ken Bozak. And a lot of people might be aware of the incident that happened between you and Ken the very last day of World CryptoCon, where he did that video calling you out as a scammer.
Let me say one thing for that we have peace in that. This doesn't matter to me, okay? Ken and me, we have different opinions about different things, what happens. So, and if it comes to the situation, I don't charge Ken for that or whatever, okay? So
Okay.
I'm very relaxed with that, okay?
And I appreciate you saying that. And knowing that me and Ken are friends, I appreciate you still taking the opportunity to do this interview. So
Okay.
the first question, I always ask this from everybody, But in your words, who is Jorg Molt?
Okay, Jorg Molt, in my words, and let's make a long story short, is a guy who raised up in the northern part of Germany. And if I say next to a home where also Kim Schmitz, alias Kim.com, has been raised. We were neighbor towns. He is raised in a foster home, and I live next door to another village. Okay, so I'm very in northern Germany. So that's what normal is. What I have done is I was going to school and have my kids and hanging around with the kids and make music. That's another fact. So I had a band when I was 16, and then I was going on with the band stuff and all around. And my story is easy. My parents bought me a home computer, and that starts the whole thing with the computer. I had a VC20 with a data set, and then I started over the C64 up to the +4, up to the 16.4, to the Commodore 128, Amiga 500, 2000, 1200, 2000, and Amiga CDTV. That's the whole story. And about how it started with my computer experience. So, as you know now, I'm from Germany, and in this times, from the very beginning, computer experience was a very heavy, expensive experience. So a Commodore C64 was about $5,000 to buy. So that means in a small town where I'm coming from, not everyone has a computer at home, and no one can afford. So my parents bought me all the stuff because my father was starting working at the bank, and then he managed his way up in the banks to higher positions from a facility manager. That was a time where no one was asking what he have done, where people in Germany could do something by proving that they have knowledge about and can own their knowledge and do something, okay? So this time it's impossible. They will ask you which school, where have you been, what paperwork, you know that, all that stuff. I do not have to tell the long story here.
Right.
So, but all over that is that I had the possibility to do things with that because they sent me to boot camps. We had a few magazines about computers in that time. One was called C64 and another was called Happy Computer. So these magazines announced that you can send you can go for boot camps all over the world to study this computer thing. And I was going there. So people remember this time will easily figure out that there have been not so much people with a C64, and most of the people have the computer for the gaming part. Okay, the C64 was that much that they sold more machines than games because all the games got hacked. Right, and that's exactly what people taught me. People taught me to hack. I was studying basic assembler, Fortran, Pascal, Turbo Pascal. I was going for C and C++, and C++ stops my whole experience because C++ is an objective directive language. Yeah, and if you want to do something in C++, it is more heavily to access and do, and I need more time for all that stuff, and it was not necessarily a thing you need for hacking at that time, at the early stages, okay? So what I have done in the time with my computers, I had my friends, and if I asked them to help me out in hacking, I was more making concepts about hacking. And hacking, good hacking is a concept. And then you get all the best coders in the world to do that. You get all the people in there hacking. In the former times was really easy. It was a mix up of a little bit software assembler hacking, say, going for decompiling some things. But then the industry started to do copyright protections by hardware. So, for example, who has have a C64? He remember the times when we brought out the SpeedDOS Plus tool, where you do not have to wait 40 minutes to copy a floppy disk. It was going in seconds. It was a hardware dongle for your drive, for your floppy drive, and you see. Then the copy protections always have been done more about the dongle you plugged into your computer or in your hardware drive, so of your floppy drive or whatever. So the hacks going around that. I was been in the scene when we burned app prompts and something like that. And people nowadays can't imagine what it is. You're hanging around for hours with people backing an app prompt, and hopefully it works, that the software is on, and you not crash that whole thing. And you sit with people around in socks and underwear, and having all the games in between, the people smoking around you, that's a normal thing. That was what was fun. You just go over the corner, visit your friends some day, and then you sit together and have a session. That was fun. Okay, that is it's some hacking a game is a challenge. It's like the same when you go today and hacking something, or you want to go in something deeper and you make a hack around. This is a challenge for you. This is not necessarily something you do because you want to earn money or something like that. It's a different point of view.
Well, okay, so you got into hacking and conceptualization as well. So let's fast forward to the David Chom DigiCash incidences, because I've been researching you, and I'm not saying that what you're saying is not true, but I have not been able to find any information that you worked with DigiCash. Not that I could find a lot of information on all the employees either, so I have to say that as well. But can you give us a little bit of information of how you got involved with possibly with DigiCash, and then where you got involved into the role that you call yourself Bitcoin co-founder? Because that's really what I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah, let's go for the very necessary thing. Okay, in the beginnings of the 90s, a good friend of mine was calling me and was saying, "Hey, Jorg, what's up about computer technology in the future?" And I was saying, "Okay, we have games, more better graphic, we have better software, we have more to learn about hacking and something like that. Okay, how it works." So he was saying, "Do you believe that computers maybe one day become the power of control?" And I was saying, "Why should I think about that? I've never mentioned to make some thoughts about that before." And he was saying, "Did you read that book, George Orwell, 1984?" And was saying, "I should read a book from 1948 about 1984 with that dust on it. Are you kidding me? I have different opportunities." Okay. So he was saying, "If you ever will read that book, come back to me and we can talk in deeper discussions about what I wanted to say to you." So, okay, I read that book finally, and I come back because I understand that someone must keep the idea that if it comes to the point that computer will grow faster, and you can see it because Moore's law and something like that is proven in that time, that computers can take over control about important things in your society. So I called this guy and was saying to him, "Okay, what's up? I have read this book and I understand now your point of view, and I want to know." And he was saying, "Okay, we're working here on concepts to make file systems secure. We're working here on a file system which is based on cryptography. We work here on different stuff maybe you have heard before." And I say, "Okay, so what's for me in there, or why you call me?" And he said, "You and your group, you have hacked all the things, stuff from former times that we heard about, that you can do magic with your concepts. And what about, can you help us to crack that thing? We want to make a security check like that, okay?" So I was saying, "Okay, send it to me." So I put my hands on it, and a lot of other guys from my group were going that and checking that, and we came to the conclusion that DigiCash is finally hackable, okay? It was not that thing that it is unhackable, but it was not that easy, okay? So I said to this guy, "It is not impossible to hack, but from my experience, I'm not the best hacker in the world. It took us a lot of time to do so. So the possibility, if you have a good workaround, is that it is really hard to crack, but it's not impossible." So from that group, and yet now imagine, we have to remember one thing. Today we use tools like Slack. In Slack, you can work with work groups, even if you do not know the people who are working with that. In former times, we had the kind of whiteboards. That means it's a prehistoric time of that. It's a dinosaur thing, okay? People write something with an email on the board, and the next is answering, and then you go step by step, and if someone has a question, he has to research that and comes later back. So it's heavily, I would say, this the most time you spend with scrolling up and down to find the answer of your question somewhere and all the stuff, okay? But that's how people have to work, because we hadn't got HTML web at that moment, okay? That was not like Web 2.0 what we see today. It was really not easy to keep up with people, and even if you write an email, it took hours to respond for that, and it was not that fun, okay? So if you work with modems, it's 33,600 baud, and then afterwards with a little bit more speed, it is not that going, okay? But it works for a lot of use cases. And even if we have done that protocol check and everything, I feature out later that it was DigiCash, because no one knows that he is in DigiCash, okay? There was a picture after that. This is a collage where you see Nick Szabo. Today we know that it is Nick Szabo. No one in that time takes care if it is one Nick Szabo or whoever is on this picture. This picture is a collage, okay? So the original DigiCash team you can see on a black-white picture with long hair freaks sitting around some computer stuff. That was the basic team. And there were also no Nick Szabo in this picture, okay? So this comes out of the researchers. So that happens that At a coincidence, some of my younger pictures come into that. Okay, but now after that, I know, okay, it was DigiCash. And that was good for me. It was an experience. It was the time we have been in there. That doesn't mean that I have coded DigiCash or something like that, okay?
Right, you were a hacker. To clarify, you were a hacker working on vulnerabilities and working on concepts of hacking of the system.
And if someone asked me, do you think this is hackable? Can you make a proof on it? So we work on a proof and then we give a response, yes or no. Okay?
Okay, so
and if yes, we give them a clue.
Can we fast forward to, because again, you claim to be Bitcoin co-founder, so can we fast forward to Bitcoin now?
Okay, you can forward it in that way that we come to a very fast point. Co-founding Bitcoin are a lot of people, and it is not about coding. So maybe this is the most important thing to understand. If you think about co-founding, maybe you think about, I must have coded Bitcoin, or anyone who is saying he's a co-founder must have been coded on Bitcoin, right? I think this is the gap in all of that, and that's why people are upset in this scenery. For make it clear, in Bitcoin was coded by two people around with the security, and this was Hal and Satoshi. And I do not accept that someone is claiming that Gavin Andresen was the chief coder of Bitcoin, okay? Because I know a different story about all that stuff, and that leads me to the conclusion why Stephen Wade was acknowledging Craig Wade as Satoshi Nakamoto, okay? There's a different story in that, okay? But that is not what we talk about. We talk about how did they come in, this whole stuff. Because from that group working on file transfer protocols and working on things like Napster and BitTorrent of all that times, there come people with a new system, with a new file transfer protocol, and was always asking, can you hack that? And they do not ask me alone this time. There were a lot of people involved in that, making the security checks, because for them, that was an important thing. And in these times, even from the beginning, I didn't know that it comes out as a Bitcoin thing, okay? Remember, people come to you giving a piece of code and more code and more code and giving you some protocols and say, can you hack that? So they do not want to know that everyone is working on a thing like Bitcoin, because the risk that someone is taking it down before it comes to publicity, it's too much, okay? So this is exactly the, similar to the way I came to the DigiCash project. And we done our work and we worked on that. And finally, after several months of trying to hack that thing, I have to acknowledge that this thing is, for me, impossible to hack. And this is the magic in that. As a hacker or as a conceptual writer for hackings, to get a feeling what someone has done, that it is unhackable, and you part of that making the security check on that. This is something like an honor, I would say. This is you do not know how big that grows, because no one was believing in Bitcoin. But if this failed after the time, no one talks about Bitcoin today. Okay, we are 10 years later. Okay, so this was the magic moment. Would you say this is where people say, "Oh, it shivered me a little bit," because you think someone has done something, maybe you can't reverse. The next question is, in which philosophy is that? Maybe you work for a group of I would say, some terrorists who have done a system which they crack everything with, and you can't revert that. You do not know exactly, okay? But if it comes out as a good, and you know that this thing you have been worked on with was Bitcoin, that is a totally different point of view. And when people start to mine around that, they must have felt like pioneers or something like that. Right. Yeah, they must be it's like you make the first step on the moon or something like that. And this is no magic.
I mean, I definitely agree. And I don't mean to interrupt you. I just definitely agree that it would be an honor to be a part of building Bitcoin. And I don't dispute that. The big thing is, like, you know, if we were like in a court of law and somebody was suing you, I mean, do you have like any type of factual evidence aside from, because what you're saying sounds great, but is there anything that would back up the claims you make? And before you answer that, I'll say, I've done my research. I've saw a lot of bad things about you, and that's not what I'm here to talk about. What I'm here to talk about in regards to that is all the things that people have said that's negative about you. I haven't seen any factual information, any documentation. I've never seen any documentation about people suing you. I've not seen any documentation that you owe child support. I have not seen any documentation to back up what you're saying is true. So do you happen to have like any actual evidence to back up what you're saying? Or do we just have to accept what you're saying based on faith?
Okay, first thing is, No one of the people, even Andreas Antonopoulos, has been in the time before from 2009. No one has ever spoken in that way to Hal or something, because when the people come after Hal was that sick that he can't answer in a way we want to have. And Satoshi Nakamoto disappeared because of government reason. So there is no evidence in that fact what it is. But to claim that I was saying I'm Satoshi Nakamoto is definitely wrong.
Okay, so you never ever claimed to ever be Satoshi Nakamoto or introduce yourself as Satoshi?
Because there is a really good reason why I couldn't be that, and there is really good reason why I never will say that. If I do a hard fork out of a hard fork, and Bitcoin, I don't know how many people that know, has two big flaws in the coding itself where you can crack down that thing. Now the developer teams today fix that problem that you can access these flaws. If I would have been Satoshi Nakamoto, I will recode the thing in a central way and make an soft fork to implement this fix of the problems, because he knows about that. And with our knowledge from today, 10 years later, we can fix the problem inside instead of making a hard fork and going that way. So for me, it is not to be Satoshi Nakamoto, because for one reason, it is not my fame to code Bitcoin, and I haven't never code on Bitcoin. I just was a little security researcher from an information I got and have done my use on that. And this is enough to do for a big thing like that. And then another thing why I call it Bitcoin co-founder is someone. And we lost our philosophy, and that is not something I will judge any one of us. But everything you see in the media, and now we have the shitstorm again, and the media is asking me, should we write about that? And I say no. There are drug gangsters, there are criminals in there, and they misuse. Since we had the Silk Road case, which was an infinitive breakdown of philosophy and Bitcoin, someone must come back and keep the pages up. My people where I'm acting, and what is not the communities, and I do not want to charge the communities. No one has the right to say he has a right on Bitcoin. This is neither me, not Satoshi Nakamoto. He gave that right away to the mass adoption. It is not Gavin Andresen, not even Extreme Rate, and not the communities. What I see in my concerns is that Bitcoin becomes more and more a community things, where people in the community say we have the knowledge about what is right or wrong, what happens in Bitcoin from the former beginnings until now, and who was in. And this is still wrong. And it's still wrong when Ken says, and I will say something for that, it's not addressed on Ken because maybe we have differences, okay? It is totally wrong when he says, I told him that I was saying to him that I'm Satoshi Nakamoto on a CoinSwing cruise, because I can show you a picture now right here where I'm on the stage from the Bitcoin cruise, where in big letters is written, Jorg Molt, co-founder of Bitcoin. So I haven't got any idea why I should go around people and telling them I'm Satoshi Nakamoto when they have seen me on stage as claimed co-founder of Bitcoin, okay? Whatever that happens, I don't know. The only thing I know, he was on the panel with Jimmy Song, and we had a big discussion about that because I asked him some question and he was a little bit angry about that, okay? After that time, we had a lot of conferences where we have been together. He can come for me all the time. He waited until Las Vegas for some reasons he only know. But, and in fact, did this co-founder thing harm the Bitcoin idea itself? No, because I'm going out talking to governments. I'm going out talking to banks about Bitcoin is a good thing. I'm going to all the places where other people do not go, because I want to make Bitcoin a social thing, okay, not a community thing. And it is, yeah, okay.
So, no, it's cool. Since you brought back up Ken, and I told Ken, we talked about, me and you talked about that Ken knew that I was doing this interview.
Yeah.
He did have one question he wanted me to ask you, which was, well, a few, and I've already asked, but why didn't you say that you're not a scammer when he called you a scammer? You didn't even really deny that part. I mean, that was just a question that he wanted to ask that I felt was semi-relevant.
You know, this is something you learn from the very beginning. If you have ever been trialed by people, and everyone, some like like my ex-wife claiming he has all the trials and I was going for judges without evidence, you say better nothing and let your lawyer make his homeworks.
Okay.
This is something you should learn in a way. Even if someone is charging you for drugs, you should keep up your mouth and everything you now say, people like co-founder is now, everyone thinks I'm saying Satoshi Nakamoto, okay? It is going viral. And viral is a difference from that, what you maybe want to say if the storm is over. And now we are able to talk directly now because the storm from Las Vegas is over. And that moment, I didn't want to talk to you, okay? Really.
Right. I know. And I, like, again, I appreciate you taking the time to do the interview. I mean, I didn't want to make this about anything more than what
I want to bring you one evidence, and this is a gift for the community. Everyone is asking me, why did he claim in Russia that he has 250,000 Bitcoins?
That was my next question.
Okay, I just made a recording for the Wild West Crypto Show, and I showed them why I claimed it, and I showed out the wallet there, okay? And you can see that there, okay? And then you can see that it's not anything I have to claim. So this is maybe the only trust I can bring that I have been in the former times, okay? So
can I ask, since you're willing to show that information to the Wild West Crypto, because I know you did the interview right before this.
Right.
Would you be willing to give the public address so people can look at the dates of when those Bitcoins were received? Because if they were received in like 2011, 2012, that wouldn't make sense to what you're saying.
No, that makes no sense. But this amount of Bitcoins you can't collect in 1 year. You will likely see and understand, okay? I have made a clue that you and your community will understand that I'm not going to suppose something. Okay. And it's not, and one another thing. This is more about the question I want to ask you. Mark Zuckerberg has $70 billion, which was Forbes saying, okay? Mm-hmm. So did he ever bring an evidence of a $70 billion, or were the people going for his philosophy? And for everyone out there now, listen to this thing. Do me a favor. Everyone has a life story, okay? So I have a life story. I cracked up with my wife for good reasons, and I was not paying for my kids for really good reasons because my wife messed up with all the money for the kids, okay? That's an untold story. I don't want to go for that because I don't want to have all the swamp here inside.
Yeah,
okay?
and that wasn't the intent for this.
But one thing is, if you see ever a speak of mine, and you can Google that, there are a lot of speaks from Coinsbank groups, from everything in the net, you will find it. And if you do not have the right links, I will send to you, okay? And you listen carefully what I said on the speaks. I'm always was not talking about Bitcoin co-funding. That was a part of my story, okay? But I'm fighting for freedom. You know me from our meetup with Ben. I'm fighting for that thing that Bitcoin comes out of that shitty thing. Everyone wants to have Bitcoin, and there are more usage because we have charity projects, and I can prove to you, where we work with Bitcoins to make it understandable for the society that Bitcoin is not overtaken by communities of I would say, a shady Sweelite or something like that, but more coming into a light that Bitcoin has a real use case in the world, and it is a monetary system rather than a set system. A lot of people in the communities get fucking rich with that Bitcoin, okay? A lot of people make money out of them, okay? But this is not the clue. The clue is that Bitcoin must come out of the system. Oh, I make money with Bitcoin and I am hedging for the highest price. It must come back to that point that Bitcoin was built that anyone can participate and raise a little bit of value. And we are, from a technology point, it is possible. And from a QR code system, for us, it's very easy. But we are, last but not least, finally not at that point that every grandma can put up a phone and can say, oh, I have some Bitcoins. And the more we go that way and discuss all that stuff and bashing each other, the more the regulators outside looking inside and says, oh, look at that creepy community. They bash each other. We never should them get a stage on a higher level. Well, see, that's my concerns, okay?
My thought is, it's not my place or anybody else's place to judge one another. And that's just period, point blank when it comes all the way down to it. It's no one's job or right to judge another person, because we're not clean individuals ourselves. We don't lead perfect lives. We're not sinless individuals. And with that being said, I mean, there's no evidence showing either way. There's a lot of information out there that says you scammed people. I don't have actual proof of that. I've seen some videos. Again, I don't have real evidence. My interactions with you have been nothing but positive. So I'm not going to judge you based off any of these things that we've discussed. The only thing that I will say, And please don't take this the wrong way. This is just me voicing my opinion. And I've spoken to a lot of people, and I feel like a lot of people share this opinion. If what you say is true, and that you did work on the security and working on hacking and conceptualization hacking in the Bitcoin community to help create Bitcoin. If that is true, I don't feel like that gives you the right to call yourself a co-founder of Bitcoin. It's a little misleading. And I'll elaborate in saying that someone like Adam Back, who's actually listed in the Bitcoin white paper, who has more of a valid reason to call himself such, doesn't do that. Even David Chong, whose 1983 dissertation, which wouldn't have, if that paper wouldn't have been written, the blockchain probably would not have been possible. He doesn't call himself a Bitcoin co-founder. So if you were a hacker and you did work on these things and it is truthful information, in my opinion, and I like you as a person, Jorg, I just don't think that you have the right to call yourself Bitcoin co-founder. It's very confusing to people. I think it would be a better story if you just told people you worked on Bitcoin and just gave the story, but kept out the Bitcoin co-founder part. Now, you as an individual, you have the right to say what you want to. And I just want, that was the point of this interview. And if we're cool, you know, I'd like to follow up and interview you about some other questions later. But I just wanted to share this fact with you because there is nothing that I can see, and I tried to do some really good research, and I've been looking into you for about a month, pretty well, and I can't find anything on either end to show, to back up all the negative things people are saying or to back up what you're saying. And I appreciate you taking the time to do the interview. So, I mean, if you want to respond to what I said, you're more than welcome to.
I appreciate what you're saying, and I will go for that because you know the communities and the terms of what it is better to address than me. But for sure, this term has worked a long time when people do not know me, okay? Because now I'm in the thing, you can go for an internet site called www.iltees.in. This is a law company which is actually working on blockchain adoption and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies for India regulators, okay? So I'm in there. So I have created a lot of stuff around that, and that leads me to this higher position because then people listen more to the concept and what I was saying, as if I saying, for example, I'm Jorg Molt, I'm working on Bitcoin, and then I have all the stuff, what we have working, and I have to repeat and repeat again, okay? That was making for that thing, and I think this is a kind of not coding or founding that thing in the code, but helping that it comes out, okay? So don't mind me if this terms disturbed all these people out there and maybe make a different sense in your language, or I'm European, okay?
Right.
So another thing I want to clear here also, because a lot of people have questions about it and they will address you, okay? I'm not that guy who has to hide anything, okay? So when people say who is a scammer or something like that, there are many people who are asking me, why did you not say that you're a co-founder anything before in, say, 2009, 2010? When it comes out to Bitcoin, we had in Europe, especially in Germany, a problem. No one knows about mining, okay? So a lot of scams come out and says we make mining and you can reward some things and you can get some things, you know, and you can earn a little bit money, do mining on our system. So what they have done is they bought, they got the money, built mining facilities for their own purposes, and at least 100,000 people shared not the Bitcoins from the mining, the revenues from the fees, okay? So everyone was getting, for example, 2,000 Satoshis in a circle. So I was fast up with them because this was going in a totally different direction, and I was carefully watching what happens on the markets and why people go in Bitcoin, and that was not the sense of Satoshi Nakamoto saying build an MLM system and getting rich and use the money of the people, okay? So what I have done is, and it's maybe you understand, maybe not, if you go for a multi-level marketing, you sign in there and then you go for the groups and makes it a little bit. I was always writing in the groups when they had questions and answer on a technical base, okay? So they finally come to the conclusion, oh, he knows something, and they run all for me. So I get all the information from the guys, what's going on in network. And that leads me to pictures with the leaders of BitClub Network, with the leaders of Avalon Live, for example. That leads me to the situation that I could find out a finger on UZI Tech, for example, on BitConnect. And everyone was asking me, is this a scam or not? I had a scam camp. for a time of YouTube video. But if you say you was in Bitcoin and you are one of the Bitcoin co-founder, no one will talk to you, not because you're in Bitcoin, because they ask themselves, why will this fucking guy go for our multi-level marketing when he's a Bitcoin co-founder, okay? So if you want to do researches, you have to do by your own. And I do not want, and this is my premise, and this is my promise to everyone out there, I do not want to go that the philosophy of Bitcoin is missed in something greediness and something playing rich man games on poor people, okay? I want to have that in a light that everyone understands that Bitcoin is a product and still is a product of money for everyone without a meaning in Bitcoin who can give anyone to anyone, okay? That's my purpose. So when the people say, yeah, Jörg, if you are so curious about that, did you have a solution how people can participate in a way and no one sees that Bitcoin is doing good? I was going that way, okay? I have a bunch of 7,000 Bitcoins or 14,000 Bitcoins and I will give them away as a gift. So I do not want to have people in there who already have 1,000 Bitcoins on the pocket, and I do not want to have all the MLM scammer in there. So what I was doing is, okay, if you are really interested in the system, something like that, you can spend $600. This is not much. People in MLM putting 50,000 or something like that. But the difference between the multi-level marketing and that what I call Bitcoin pension plan was and is still that we put 40% of your
let's tell you what, let's before we go on with the investment plan, the retirement plan, that if you agree to doing a second interview, we can get into that for sure.
You're running out of time.
I want to make this one kind of short and sweet about this whole issue that was going on between you and Ken about the claims of Bitcoin co-founder. Is there any last things that you want to include on this?
And the last thing I will say to you, no one is a victim of a fraud here. No one from you has been hurt because I was saying Bitcoin co-founder or something like that. No one lost money in me because of that. Yeah. And if someone is there who lost money because I said I'm a Bitcoin co-founder, he should raise his hand or he shut up forever.
Right. Okay. Cool. I get it, man. So what I want to say, and I want you to hold on after we're done, after I'm done doing my outro here, just linger for me for a moment, Jorg. But ladies and gentlemen, like I said, we don't have a right to judge one another. I encourage everybody to be the change by practicing change. So we don't have the right to judge other people and crucify other people. What we need to do is do our research so we can make educated decisions. And that's what I've done in this particular interview. As much as I've researched, I've not been able to find any information to back up all the negative things people are saying about Jorg, nor can I find information to back up Jorg's claims. Jorg has showed information apparently about his 250,000 Bitcoin on the Wild West Crypto Show. I encourage you guys to check out that interview because I'd actually like to check out that interview myself. But again, we don't have this right to judge other people, but I did, Jorg, want to just tell you how I felt about the situation, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this interview. And ladies and gentlemen, if it's your first time ever checking out any of my content, be sure to check out my channel. And if you like what I'm doing, you can support me by subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing. And like I said, I encourage you to be the change by practicing change. I love you all.
Thank you.